Okay, just jumping straight into it now. It's where we at? 5 to 10. So a little bit early to sort of get too much of a picture about things happening in that because obviously we're still waiting for some volume to come in the next hour or so. But big move overnight was really the reversal from DXY. So like I've been sort of trading the sort of downside with DXY, and obviously it sort of came down under this major level. You can see it a bit better if we tick it onto the higher time frames. And this is the lower side of what the range is that I wanted to see a close outside of. Obviously, we didn't get that. We got that close the day before, right into that zone. Early Asia sort of pushed down, but this reversal was just mammoth. But I don't know. I'm not completely sold on it at the moment. I mean, sort of coming down into this range. I mean, still it is in this short-term bearish because it hasn't taken out the top side over here at sort of 106.70 and change. But if we get back down onto the smaller time frame, we can see sort of just the size. It was just an unrelenting move to the top side here, and really initially it was just off sort of weak. Well, not even initially. It was off weak PMI data, like from Euro, from GBP, these kind of things, and that's what really started this push moving all the way up through here. And then you've got the US data, the PMI that came out, and that was strong. So it sort of seems like that, US is the only economy that seems to be able to put out anything of strength in terms of data in that at the moment. So, that then, of course, just kicked on a little bit further. If you get down onto a lower time frame, I didn't actually pick this up at the time. I noticed this after the fact, so I've got it marked out here. I mean, that's a very clear negative divergence sort of coming into this whole move here. These are obviously generally a little bit sort of lagging with it all, and I didn't pick it up as it was happening, only sort of having a quick look at it this morning, sort of picked up on this. So, the indicator was there for that sort of breakout, but what I'm sort of looking at a bit more is just this last kick on here, and the fact that it's really just like the buying pressure has just really died off through this last section here. So it's done almost pretty much a 100% reversal of this drop down here. And I'm taking it from this point because obviously we had a bit of stuffing around through here. Well, you could be sort of saying that it's coming from up here, but I'm just looking at this particular window in time, and that was pretty much almost 100% reversal, which is, very strong, of course. But this little sort of last period up around here, where, you could call this a little bit of a sort of triangle, this period here, obviously we're seeing a sort of quite a sharp sort of drop off in buying pressure to hold it up here. So not a lot of volume is actually holding it in this area. This is on a 30-minute chart. So, this is moving towards, this is from 2 o'clock, local time on. So, there still should have been a little bit of volume in the market, at least through this first part of this sort of consolidation area. Maybe not towards the end as things sort of peter off a little bit. But certainly, yeah, I would have expected this to sort of maybe sort of have a little bit more of a sort of dip back up on the RSI, to sort of hold it to show that things are buying it a little bit more. So that's interesting sort of with DXY. So I don't know if I completely trust this move as a move. Okay, yes, rejection, and now we're moving all the way back up. I have a feeling that this may be sort of okay from a technical level. A lot of people would have been watching this zone, and a lot of people would have been calling it and going, okay, here we are, bang, there's the breakdown. So what does the market like to do? It likes to snap those early people out. Oh, sweet, here we go, technical, textbook, it's broken, let's get our positions. Well, that's easy money for people that are sort of actually pushing this market, because they can just go, oh, yep, you want to go short? Fine, let's squeeze them. Bang. And look at this. And it was unrelenting as well. I mean, you had this small little pullback here. Was this around sort of like 9:30, 10 sort of thing. But, apart from that, it is pretty much just straight one direction up. So there's no chance for people to get any sort of reprieve and, okay, maybe mitigate their loss. They just got squeezed all the way out here. So I don't know. I'm reluctant to sort of think that this is okay. No, it's DXY coming back in. What I do take from this, though, if we get back down onto a sort of a higher sort of time frame here, as I said, they snap out the first people here. So it means, I mean, yes, that's a long move back down here, But if we can get down under here, that I'm calling as a, like, where we go here. Sorry, where we go here. Boom, there we go. I'm going to call this a I'm calling that the sort of confirmation downside move for the DXY. So, yeah, they've come down here. They've sort of got a whole bunch of people that would have come in here. I can see a little bit of this sort of resistance being sort of respected here. So, I mean, this could, of course, be just working out to a larger sort of wedge kind of pattern, which, of course, in this case would be continuation. But I think if we can get down underneath yesterday's lows, this is just a squeeze, and I expect a sort of a faster and bit stronger sort of move to the downside then, if we do get that with DXY. And the reason I'm sort of thinking this is because, like, if you look at it in relation to a couple of other markets, obviously, sort of like, Euro makes up the bulk of it, and also GBP makes up quite a large amount of DXY as well. But if you look at a couple of the other markets, so normally I sort of go to copper a little bit later. Copper really seemed to sort of just shake it off. It didn't care about this sort of move, and the only reason I'm going straight to copper now is because it's sort of like, this is a bit more of a risk asset, and if we've got sort of like everybody, if that move with DXY is based off everybody going risk off, then you'd expect to see it sort of flow across everything. You'd expect to see it with, Aussie dropping off. You'd expect to see it with copper dropping off. You'd expect to see it with the yuan weakening. So China moving up, but you're not seeing that. So to me, it sort of feels like, because it was sort of like, so much of that sort of like second, third tier data with the PMI coming out, and it was weak for euro, weak for GBP, strong for USD. Well, that all sort of says that, okay, euro's going to be sold down, pound's going to be sold down, and US dollar's going to be bought. But it's not a broad sense of risk across the market. It's more those individual sort of currencies that are making up sort of large portions of the DXY is the reason that it pushed back up. And this is kind of why I don't believe that sort of big push up, because as you can see, sort of through this period here, while sort of DXY was pushing up, we're also seeing copper pushing up. Copper didn't care. Look, this is from 10 o'clock down here, and it fired all the way back up here as well. Copper, like, I'll get to it in a second, but, again, if the market's going risk off and it doesn't think there's going to be anything positive coming forward or moving forward in the short term, risk is going to sell off. So you're going to see copper come down and break these sort of major zones. And if we get on here, we can see it's really defending this line down here. We know that the buyers have been sitting here. We saw the strength of this push here. Didn't even get down as low as the previous lows in that, and it's fired up again. And we're starting to see it sort of come along, like this is a bit of a sort of a choppy little sort of midway downtrend channel, but it's coming back up here, and it's sort of testing the top side. So this is what I've been sort of talking about sort of through the week with copper, well, the last 2 weeks, in fact, in it, is that the buyers are still coming in, even though the price is pushing down. Like, it's not technically going in a straight, like, easy negative to see negative divergence, but price is coming down, price is coming down, price is coming down. And each time it's doing this, buyers are stepping up, buyers are stepping up. It means it's coming in, these lower prices are coming in on less selling volume, less pressure. So less parts of the market are pushing it down. But whoever's buying is holding this line and saying, look, that's fine. Whatever portion of the market wants to sell it down to this level, we're happy to buy it, we're happy to push it back up. And as you can see, we're getting up towards this sort of falling resistance here. If we can break out of this side here, that's going to be sort of short term, not sort of overall changing around for DXY, quite bullish. I mean, here's a channel, bang, breakout. So it's going to be good for risk as an overall, and the sentiment of the market that we may actually have at least a short to medium term push to the top side with risk. So that's first reason why I'm not sort of really believing this DXY move. Secondly, if you look at sort of gold, so gold again, gold's not really a sort of necessarily the risk asset of choice because it really sort of it bounces back and forth. It can be risk on, it can be risk off, whatever. But again, sort of like you've got 90% of the time, you've got an inverse relationship with gold and DXY. But again, you would expect while DXY was hammering up, that gold would have just melted down, and you can see it did. I mean, apart from the fact this is what I drew out the other day. When was this? Yeah, so over the weekend, and you can see sort of like it looks a bit better on the 4 hour. This pretty much played out to a T. This is what was expected before this 1980 zone. Come back down here, test this lower zone, which it did, fired straight back up to the top, resistance again, just a grind through here, and then sort of down to the bottom side here. These sort of moves here, like I've said it a number of times, gold loves to sweep out positions. And you got to think, if you had your technical stops under here, you're out here. Okay, you'll have another go. I'll put my stops under here, comes and sweeps you out here. It loves to play games, particularly in this kind of zone here where so much of the market are trying to hold these long positions, and you've got a major breakout here. They're going to try and smash out, drag in as many shorts as they can, take out as many longs as they can before they sort of jam it up and sort of break out and go above here. So again, a close above 1980 on gold is going to be very bullish, and we're going to be going over 2000 soon after, I would say. As I said, this is my next sort of price target up around here, 2016. And so, like, I mean, obviously it's not going to go in a straight line necessarily, but I would say if that's what I'm calling, if we get a close up here, 2016. Look, I mean, I haven't actually said it. I'll probably have to get a little bit closer into it to work out a proper level. But from what I have previously marked out, that looks like a decent zone for all. But again, sort of getting back to sort of the whole sort of risk side of things and whether I believe this DXY move is that you've seen at the same time that sort of at first it did do that. DXY pushed, gold pushed down. But, gold picked back up. Gold moved back up to the top side here. If DXY, if it was a whole risk off and DXY was the risk off choice, the safe haven of choice, you would have seen gold continue to melt down. But it didn't. It pushed back up. Of course, last couple of hours, it sort of petered off. Like everything seemed to sort of quieten down towards the end. But, you're not seeing the direct sort of correlations that you want to sort of see if that was a true sort of dollar buying move from a broad sense of the market and not just sort of like driven by just a couple of select currencies. So yeah, I mean, just lastly on gold, this last sort of touch up here, as you can see, this is the third touch up of this main trend that we've had sort of from the bottom side here, and this little sort of pullback channel that we were looking for. So it's respecting the chart very well, and that's generally the sign of accumulation in my eyes. It's not sort of like temperamental. Let's just sell it. Let's bucket it down. Everybody wants to get out, and everybody running for the door as quick as possible. It's methodical. People know what they're doing. They know where to sell, where to buy, where to accumulate. So again, across the top side there, that's going to be my sort of key for continuations. And getting across to Aussie, again, same sort of thing. Aussie yesterday. Let's probably see it a little bit better on this one here. Pulled back to the 38, and that was about it. Again, sort of like if you look at sort of how far DXY moved, just have a look at DXY for the day. So, this is where DXY started Asia, down here. So, DXY, and I'm aware that Aussie isn't part of DXY, but, it moved up 0.67%. That's fine. But, if we flick across to Aussie, too many charts here, trying to catch these sort of things. You look at how Aussie moved throughout the day. It just moved straight up, and sort of even while it was having its sort of big pushback, sort of DXY, sorry, was breaking out and moving up. it only sort of came back 38%. So again, if it was a broad sense of, markets buying the dollar or risk off, dollar's safe haven, then you would have seen the correlations. You would have seen Aussie just get absolutely pummeled. Aussie loves to get smashed when the dollar's being bought, even though it's not part of DXY. It's that broad sense of, US dollar strength across the market. But this is why I think it's just a couple of those select currencies based off the PMI data. And that's that. I would expect sort of a lot of DXY to sort of reverse a little bit today because you're seeing these other things like holding their ground. They're not sort of going, okay, well, let's move in that sort of known correlation. So, yeah, it's interesting to sort of see if we can take I've got the alert set here, we cross over yesterday's highs, then, Aussie's going back up into 64s. Pretty simple with that one there. One interesting thing with Aussie here is though, where it did stop is right on this big, heavy falling resistance. We can see that this has been respected a number of times. And look at the rejections of these things each time. Like, they're not small rejections. Like, whoever's sort of defending this line uses this as a chance to absolutely pummel Aussie. I mean, every single thing has come off has had a bearish day. Okay, this one was slightly bullish, but look at the next 2 days. So certainly made to suffer here. That was a small bearish one, and then bang, smashed down. So today's the day to sort of see if we can go past that high. Not only are we sort of continuing this short-term sort of push up to the top side, that we're actually coming outside this falling resistance. So if you've seen anything that I've been doing, I've been trying to sort of trade this sort of triangle sort of wedge break. So if we can get a push to the top side here, I'm calling that sort of quite medium-term bullish. Like, don't get me wrong, Aussie's still got a lot of work to do because you look at all these wicks here and all these wicks here, it's danger zone to get up around here because we know that the market, you may sort of get the little wins and get out of these periods here, but the market's certainly going to try and sort of hammer it back down where possible. But if we pop it onto the weekly, it gives it a very clear idea of where we need to go, what we need to do. So if we pop this along this area here, I mean, depending where you want to sort of cut this one, you can sort of put it along here, but call it something along this area here. Like this was that sort of consolidation. This is on a weekly chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 weeks or more or less consolidating down here. If we can push back up into this range, I mean, we're overbought. We've just tipped up, positive in the oversold. We've just tipped up, crossed over down here as well. Put in a bullish week, get us back up into this range here. I mean, obviously this is the zone on a weekly to close above 64.50, only 80 points off, which is, a little bit fuzzy, but it's not impossible. Get a close above there. That's where, I mean, it's pretty clear if you can get the close above here that you depleted a lot of these sort of sellers in this zone, and it could easily move to 66 in the short term. Obviously, look, this is a lot of sort of, I don't know if you want to call it wishful thinking or if it's just how you sort of think, it might work, but there's a lot of weekly zones there. But point being is, if this can get back into the zone, then this could be very much turning into a little bit of a sort of trap. And you may have this, okay, here with strong bearish, consolidation, continue bearish. That was a very bearish week. We've had this one here, which actually, if you sort of have a look at this, if you take this off, you can see it a bit better, and we invert the chart. This is very much a hanging man, and this is why we're sort of seeing this push down and sort of, or push back up this week, because, that's a hanging man, is exactly the same, both directions. You're starting to see this push back up, but regardless, get back to this weekly chart here. If we can get a push back up into this zone, this could be very trappy, and this could hold a lot of the market. And we've seen it do these kind of moves before, because if you look at this area here, I mean, support came down here. Imagine how many people got trapped in this zone, and look at the reaction afterwards. This is just squeeze, 3 weeks straight push up. I don't think this is necessarily going to happen on Aussie, but I'm just saying that price action wise, you've got support, broke down, trapped a bunch of people, squeezed them out. Obviously, look, it came back down after another month or so, but there's no reason why this can't do the same, similar, and then come back up over to this sort of like 65, 65.50, 6600 zone, and obviously give a couple of sort of percent move for the Aussie for the top side. So that's just what I'm looking at for Aussie, sort of on a slightly larger time frame, of course. But in the short term, it still seems to be holding. As I said, it only came back to that 38. So let's get this. Get this one off here. Only came back to the 38%, which is basically, that's still grounds for a bullish continuation to the top side. So we need to take out yesterday's highs just to have some sort of confirmation that we're going to see another leg. Finally, we jump across to China, and this is another I was talking about, that through that time when DXY was pushing back up, you had China pushing down. So this is one strength coming down. So again, if it was US dollar strength broadly across the market and that DXY move was, okay, everybody thinks that everything's about to escalate and in the Middle East, and it's going to sort of everyone's looking for the safe haven and they've decided to buy the dollar again all of a sudden, you'd see it across this as well. But we're not. We're seeing sort of this short-term trend that it was trying to hold, that broke, came back up here, retested, whether you want to call it the underside of this trend, or you want to call it the retest of that breakout point. Regardless, it came down, retested, and now it's coming down again. So this is the zone that we marked out and said, look, it needs to close down under here. What happened? Buyers came straight in and bought it from that zone. That's fine. This is the first test of it. Second test underneath, that's the confirmation. And this is the same thing that I was looking at with DXY. You want to get that second move down. You want to get that second move down to confirm it, because the market doesn't like to sort of just give you these easy textbook moves, because that's too easy, and too many portions of the market trade the textbook, and so what do? They snap them out and then they move it. How many times do you get into a position, you're like, oh sweet, I got into it, oh I got stopped out, I moved my stop to even, I got stopped out, oh, and then it moves afterwards. It's because sort of like they know where the textbook positions are. That's why they know where textbook stops are. That's why they know sort of where your entries are going to be, and they know they can reverse it back up just to sort of squeeze people out. Oops, I got that wrong. From a technical level, I put my stops above these wicks over here. This is a 4 hour. If it breaks that wick on the 4 hour, well, it must be bullish. Goes up here, stops people out, comes back down. You're out of your position, and then they move the market in that direction. So I would say, if we can get this sort of drop down over here, we're going to see sort of a retest of this major sort of support zone down here in DXY, in the one. And again, this is the area that you need to break. And as you can see here, number of times it's been held. But if you can get that break and hold, particularly the close down under this zone, that's when we're going to see a further push down, and obviously we got our price targets marked out down here. We've also got the major trend to sort of deal with that, but the longer that this sort of grinds up the top over here, the more that I'm thinking this may not be so relevant. I thought this would be really relevant as if it was going to come down over here initially and make contact a little bit earlier, sort of like early October. But the fact that it's ground on so long, there's only such a little drop down here, it'll still play some sort of part, but I don't think it'll be as important as it was previously. So sort of wait for the volume to sort of come in this morning to sort of see what they want to do with DXY and also all these correlating instruments. But at the moment, I'm sort of still holding on to the idea that that was a bit of a flare up on DXY, and we're going to see a sort of continuation on a little bit of risk appetite up at the moment. So we'll see how we go. Okay, that's about it from me.